8:30. Welcome back. For those of you that weren't, my name is Bill Saichek. I'm a professor at Orange Coast College down in Southern California, Costa Mesa specifically. And this is, if you read through it, this is teaching voice over IP on the cheap part 2. The reason is, if you were here 2 years ago, I gave this presentation, but I didn't have the labs written. I just kind of had some interesting stuff that I was talking about. This time we have some labs set up for it. I have equipment that I was able to drag up, and hopefully with enough time I'll be able to let you guys play with the environment a little bit. So with that said, how many of you have a voice over IP program at your school? That's what I figured. How many of you thought about a voice over IP class? Okay, a couple of you. What's usually the biggest problem stopping you from having a VoIP program?
It's expensive.
Why?
I just dropped about $50,000. Routers, software, phones, switches,
exactly,
et cetera, et cetera.
I'll show you how you can do the same thing. Although, albeit aside, teaching CME or teaching Cisco Call Manager or Call Manager Express is excellent. In fact, we have the equipment, so my course actually combines it as well. But I'm going to show you how you can do it now with very, very little investment up front.
Yeah.
And you're teaching the same basics. Now, would this be to prepare somebody for C-Voice? No. Because this is not teaching them Call Manager, but it is teaching them voice over IP.
Right.
So
that's kind of what I'm thinking is maybe we can tier this.
Absolutely.
Like use this as intro, and then use use the CCNA voice
as a capstone.
As a capstone.
Excellent. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be fleshing this out even more. Okay. But I want to kind of show you how anybody, any program at any school, if you have a networking program going on, you can add voice over IP, which can be dovetailed into, like, we're dovetailing it as part of our cloud program, because obviously a lot of the times you're going to be working with cloud providers for IP services. Well, without further ado then, why don't we go ahead and kind of get started. I'll show you what we're going to do. First of all, this is something I should have put up prior to the previous demonstration that I did over there. Always make sure you perform a sacrifice to the demo gods. Okay, so objectives, what I want to talk about, and this, my lecture portion, quote unquote, is going to be very short. I'm going to kind of race through the slides. A lot of words, they will be posted. You'll be able to read them at your leisure. So I'm going to go through them kind of quick. But what I want to do is I want to talk to you about why VoIP is something that you should consider at your colleges. Number one, your traditional telcos are leaving PSTN by the droves. They're looking to enhance voice. Companies are looking to consolidate their data center with their voice operations. Usually you have to have 2 sets of technicians. You can drop that down to 1. It is a part of cloud computing. And also, one of the reasons that we can teach it better now is we can use open source product. Cisco requires, as you said, a major investment in hardware and software. But Asterisk, I don't know if you've used Asterisk or played with it very much. Open source, lots of variations on it. It works very well. Several large companies are actually using Asterisk as their platform. It does take a little more tweaking, but you're going to find out today, if we have enough time and if I have enough resources, we'll actually set up, you'll each be able to set up a couple of extensions. I only have a very limited number of hard phones and some headsets if you want to set up some soft phones. But at least you can get an idea of how it works. So for those of you that don't know what Asterisk is, first of all, it is an open source product based on CentOS Linux. It was developed by Digium, but it is, again, it's under new licensing. So it is freely available to any and all. I have, on each of the machines, I have installed a variation, a specific implementation of Asterisk called TrixBox. Now both Digium and TrixBox sells an appliance, a pre-built, you buy the hardware appliance. It's not very expensive, but you buy it. This is all installed. In fact, I have them in a virtual machine here. We're going to run them strictly virtual. Now again, depending on how much resources you want to throw at it, for a professional organization, that would be different. But in a classroom, it's fantastic, and I'll explain to you kind of how I physically set it up a little bit later. Asterisk is both a PBX and a gateway. I don't know if you're familiar with voice over IP, but usually you have to have 2 components. One is the PBX that handles the call managing, the call setup, teardown, management, voicemail, etc. But it also is the gateway with the proper equipment, and in fact I have one of those right here. by buying a box like this, this can be tied directly into a PSTN system and works very well. And I'll explain kind of how that works a little bit later in just a few minutes. It supports the 3 major protocols. It does support SIP, which is today considered the dominant open protocol. Of course, Cisco, Nortel, well, what was Nortel, Toshiba, they all have proprietary protocols, to some extent either based on or adapted from either SIP or H323. Asterisk supports both of those. It does support MGCP, and it will support skinning, which is the Cisco protocol as well. It can be handled on any x86 platform. You can install it on any old machine, and no special hardware to build the Asterisk server. In fact, the machines that we use at my college, I have a rack of, I can show you a picture of it a little bit later if you're interested. I have a rack of 30 Dell 270s, old Pentium 4 machines, each with about half a gig each of memory. And we just installed Asterisk on each one, and the students have them, and that's far more power than they even need. So that was the way I did it. I just grabbed a whole bunch of old machines, stuck them on a shelf. Because it's a Linux server, once the software is installed, it's accessed through a web browser. Very easy in that respect. So Asterisk and all of the derivatives, you don't have to necessarily teach pure Asterisk, although that would really be a cool thing. The true Asterisk is all command line based. All of the other derivatives have added a really nice GUI in front of it. It is the purest form of voice over IP because there are no proprietary protocols built into it, although it will support several of them. So it supports the major SIP, it supports, of course, IP, IPv6, and so on. It's an open source and can be run on just about anything you can find. Like I said, we're running them in a virtual machine, and that, in fact, works. Now, I have not been able to virtualize it yet in an ESXi environment, as in under NetLab, because the sound doesn't work. They haven't quite got the sound drivers working the right way yet. We've tried. We're working on it. In fact, I'm working with Rich and his team on setting this up so it could be run as another virtual environment. It does run virtually. It just is a matter of getting the sound working. We're going to be using TrixBox. Its original name was FreePBX. I don't know why they changed it, but they call it TrixBox. Easy to use, free download. Asterisk is an Asterisk derivative, but it also has a whole bunch of other features to it. It's a little more of a complete solution for a business. So it's not only call management, but it's also content management. It's more of a unified system. It's very close to what Cisco's Unified Call Manager is. And Zentile, which is another open source platform, which is another one, and it has a lot of other features to it. Now, Zentile is free for commercial use, or for non-commercial use, so in classrooms. But if you were going to use it commercially, there's a licensing fee on it. Okay, so you were asking before, the cost of setting up the lab. So Asterisk, the PBX, a repurposed computer. I have run it on as small as a 1 gigahertz Pentium 3 just to see if it would work, and it works just fine. 256 meg of memory at 20 gigabytes. With 20 gigs, you're not going to put a lot of voicemails, but again, you don't have to. 100 megabit NIC card, VGA video, should cost you nothing. I'm sure a lot of your schools have lots of spare hardware that they could use, or virtual environment in this case. The gateway software is 0, and Softphones. If you use Softphones in conjunction with headsets, it's free. There are a lot of free Softphones out there. I use one called Zoiper. It's not very complex. It's also not, it doesn't have a lot of great features on it, but it's enough to teach what's going on. It does support both voice and video. So if you want to do video calls, all you need is a little, got one up here, a little webcam. Or if your computer already has one built in. Now, compare that to Cisco's Call Manager Express. For each server, the router is going to be about 1250. The 4-port HWIC is about 215, and the Cisco phones are 365 each. So this is the low end of the Cisco environment, and that's per phone. So yours is probably a lot more expensive if you're running Call Manager, where you got to have their big server.
Right, and because we've got bigger switches, and I got PoE switches.
Sure. And there's a lot more. You can spend a lot more money. Now, we have a little bit of money invested in this outside of this. So if you want additional components outside of your basic Asterisk, over here I brought over several of my phones that we have at school. The Polycom, this is kind of like the standard bearer of the El Cheapo 6 phone. Brand new off the shelf on this is about 130 bucks. But I've seen them on eBay for about $25 to $30. I don't know if you can buy them. I wish we could all buy them on eBay. That would be right.
Figure out ways to do that.
There are ways, but I've seen these. In fact, I bought a bunch of these for school on eBay, and I bought like 10 of them, and the guy was so happy to get rid of all 10. He sold them to me for like 20 bucks a piece. So for 200 bucks, I got 10 of those. That was pretty cool. Kind of the top of the line. Is the Linksys 504G. Again, standard 6 phone. They can be a little bit pricey. Again, you can find them on eBay. Probably the workhorse that I see a lot of out there are the 942s. That was the previous version of that one. These are available again pretty cheap. Now I brought in 2 of these guys. These are Grand Stream video phones. Only because it's really cool to have them set up video. Now one of the things that we found, because of the way my lab was set up, because they're going through switch, through about 5 different layers of switches just to get to it, just the weird way I set it up, the latency was so high that it proved that the bandwidth is important in latency, because what happened was they couldn't get the video phones to work on certain ports because they were too far away. The video cuts out. Sound was fine. Video will cut out because there's not enough. Move it to a different port where the latency. So I had them test the return, just do a ping, and if it was over 250 milliseconds, boom, doesn't work. Perfect example of that. So it works real well. And a couple other things that you can use. I have a bunch of other phones. What I was doing is scouring anywhere I could find. I found a couple D-Link phones. I found some other Grand Stream. I even found this guy. This is a Linksys Cisco. It's a wireless phone. It is not a cell phone, but it is Wi-Fi, but it will work with SIP. Now I don't have a Wi-Fi connection in here that's connected to the backbone, so we can't demo this. And in fact, my students, a lot of them said, well, what about using smartphones? There's some SIP software. I said, try it. So I had students with HTCs and iPhones, and they were actually downloading free. They downloaded them, and those became the Softphones. So if your students have iPhones, iPads, I was going to show it to you on the iPad. I just couldn't get the software to run on my iPad 1. But I'm sure if given enough time. But if they have iPads 2, 3, so that's kind of cool. Other things like buying headphones, I'm sure you can buy these pretty cheap. I just tell my students, this is a requirement for the class. Go buy a headphone with a microphone. It doesn't matter how high the fidelity is. I mean, you buy them on Newegg for 10 bucks. A couple of other things that we use in the class. And you're welcome to take a look at these in more detail. And if we have a few minutes to play with these, we will. This is an FXS ATA. So with this little unit, I can tie any generic phone. This is like a $10, just a POTS phone. So in fact, we do that as well. We have that. And I mentioned up here, this ATA allows me to connect a Asterisk PBX to a PSTN system. So if you have just a regular PSTN line, you can't run it through your circuits, I'm sorry, your PBX at schools. But if you have like a dedicated line out, you could do that. And if you have, most of the places, you guys are running Cisco programs, right? A lot of you are. Do you still have your old Adtran 550s? No. Get an Adtran 550 and get an 8-port or a couple of 8-port FXS cards. That becomes your PSTN. And that not only becomes your PSTN for Asterisk, but also for some other things as well. So it's very, very handy to use. So that can end up costing you a little bit of extra money. But again, we're doing it fairly inexpensively if you think about it. You don't need the hard phones, although it's really nice to have. You don't need all of the ATA equipment, but they're nice to have as well. You'll also probably, you'll probably want to get a 100 megabit switch. I brought 2, although I have a number of them, little PoE switches. These are TrendNet, but there are lots and lots of them. 8 ports. They're 8 ports, they're only 4 ports, 2 ports PoE. $50, give or take. You'll need your desktop, laptop computers to connect to the VoIP gateway. You probably have those in your labs. Router to the internet if you're going to do that. Now, one of the things I have been working on is making arrangements with companies like, I've got one organization in Southern California who's really interested in this, and they would give us some, basically they would create a SIP trunk so that we would just simply port over IP to them, and they would give us lines for a short period of time. So they give us an active telephone number so we could actually call out to the real world. Kind of nice. And lots of Cat5 cables running all over the place. Yeah.
Those switches have to do QoS.
No. Well, the answer is not for the labs that we're going to be doing, but the short answer is yes. If you were really going to do this in real life, you'd want QoS
But the little
switches.
guys that you've got here.
They don't do POS. No. If you had a QoS PoE switch, that would be a lot better. In fact, I took two of the, I have, in my lab, I have racked up to 3560s, I think. Yeah, and we set up, in fact, that's one of the labs that they have to set up QoS on it. But again, for a simple staging it in, trying to teach them, you can get away without it. Okay, so I have created, and I am happy to share this, I'll put this available, is one of the things I do with my students is I require that anytime you're going to do anything in one of my classes, let's see, that wasn't it. Oh, tell me it's, nope. I didn't bring it. I thought I brought the electronic versions. I have them, I'll get them for you. So I'll pass these around so you can take a look at them. These are documents that I've created that I have, they're just Excel spreadsheets. I tell my students, you will document. So I want to know what locations, what versions of the software you're running on one sheet, extension numbers on another, phone information. And this last sheet, one of the big projects we do is they have to create a site-to-site trunk bridge between two of their Asterisk servers. And that can be fairly complex, so they actually have to fill out a documentation sheet. And they work with other teams to do it. So they have kind of fun with that. I'll pass those around. I'm sorry, I didn't have time to Xerox all of these off for all of you. Be happy to share more of it later. So you can take a look at those environment sheets as we go along. Okay. So what I'd like to do now, as like before, talk less, show more. So what I'd like to do is do two things. If you want to follow along, show you how to set up some extensions. Unfortunately, I am so sorry, I was able to get 10 copies. I didn't know how many people would show up. So if I can, maybe I can spread them out a little bit. You guys can share. Yeah, if you don't mind sharing with us, I got one more copy. Somebody,
additional copies somewhere?
I do have additional copies I will have them posted. I'll give them to Anthony, and they'll post them up. Oh yeah, these are in my lab. What I've done is I've actually created 5 labs for the Asterisk server. I also have a second type of voice over IP device. Now, these are great. You can still find them. Linksys stopped making them, but you can find them on eBay. And it's Linksys Cisco's built in. What it is they took their own distro of Asterisk, and they built it into these 2 boxes. This is the actual gateway. This is the whole thing. This is the call manager and everything else, and that's the gateway with the voicemail. And that connects out to the internet. Both boxes together, I've seen them on eBay for about maybe $200. You can get the pair. And these are really cool. I have adapted some labs. Actually, the Convergence Technology Center, the group I'm a co-PI on, they actually developed labs for this product. And I believe they're making those labs available through NSF. So those labs are available if you wanted to buy this hardware. And then I also have 3 or 4 labs written for Call Manager Express, because we have all 3 environments. So I make my students do all 3. And then the big project at the end, They've got to make all three systems talk through PSTN. So you've got to call from an Asterisk to Cisco to the Linksys and back again. So it's quite a bit. So in the interest of time, I only brought the first lab project. I do have the other 5 if you want to take a look at them again. I didn't have the time to get them all Xeroxed off, also in the interest of saving paper. But I'll be happy to show you. But what I'd like to do is show you how you can actually set up some extensions, which is the first thing we do. Now, the first part of the exercise I've given you is installing TrixBox. We're not going to do that because it's 4 clicks and 20 minutes of sitting there watching the spinner. So we've assumed we've already installed it. In fact, we have. So if you don't mind, I'd like you to turn. Well, actually, this is the first side. Okay. I used to have the phase 1. I think I had the installation on here at first, but I think I took it off for that very reason. Okay, so if you want to read along and follow with me, we can go ahead and do it. On your desktop, you should see an icon that says VMware Player. Would you please double-click to open it? You may get a couple of windows pop up, like do you accept the license agreement and all of that. And if you do, great, just accept it and just say basically whatever the defaults are all the way through. When you're finished, you should come up to this screen. Is anybody not there? Okay, good. What I'd like you to do is click on Open a Virtual Machine. Now from there, go ahead and click on the desktop. Inside the desktop, you'll see a folder called TrixBox. Open up the TrixBox folder. There's the virtual machine. Click Open. And then once it's open, if you're to that point, all you need to do is click here where it says Play, or you can click up here where it says Play, either one. And again, binary translation. This is a 32-bit operating system, but it doesn't know what to do with it. When you get this message, some of you may not because I was testing some of the machines, I copied it. This is all VMware. We haven't even gotten into the Asterisk stuff yet. No, we don't have to install the change. Say OK. Basically, get the Windows. So now, if you got to that point, you should be loading the virtual machine. Okay. Open the virtual machine. Open up and now sorry. And if you get those little warning messages, just close those. Okay. Open the virtual machine. Here. Or actually, you can say skip the version.
I tried to download TrixBox from the TrixBox.org in Linux. Not there anymore.
What?
Oh, maybe I'm going to the wrong place. TrixBox.org, right?
I just Googled TrixBox.
TrixBox.org is where I was getting it from before.
Yeah, that's it.
You can't download it because what all these does is support TrixBox CD.
Oh. Oh, that's okay. That is if you want to get it from it. You can still get it, as far as I know.
Okay.
It's open source. I can give you the URL, or I can give you the item.
Okay.
And it will start automatically. So it's going to go ahead and do its boot up, and it takes a few minutes. Do not upgrade to the Pro because that you got to pay for.
Should you go to formality.com?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it is it.
Yeah.
I thought it was
When you
it.
Google just trixbox.org,
Yeah.
there's now a
Okay. But you can still get the free version.
absolutely.
Yeah. And even if you can't,
Okay.
there are a lot of other ways to get it.
Got it.
Okay. Now, at this point, you don't have to touch the actual Trixbox machine directly. Everything from this point, this is a full distro of Linux, so if you wanted to play Linux games, you could. And in fact, there are some special configurations you have to do with the command prompt. We're not going to do that. What I'd like you to do is at this point, we are now ready to start from the instructions. So go ahead. Now, before you do anything, and I got to remember this myself, this is where a laser would be really nice. Wait a minute. Do I have a laser? Yes. Make a note of that IP address.
One that's on our own.
Correct. Oh no, the one on your machine. Yeah, because everybody has their own copy. This was the problem I had 2 years ago. We had one copy of Trixbox, and everybody was trying to set extensions on it. I said, the heck with that. No, I didn't. I said, the hell with that. So by doing it virtualized, everybody has their own to mess up. So you can minimize this or leave it open. Open any browser. I prefer FireFox, but that's me. But you can use Firefox, Chrome, or and go to the address that you just wrote down. Question? Hmm?
I'll
find that address for you.
I got everything but there's no address.
Oh, you didn't get an app?
I got everything but no
Oh, I wonder why you guys didn't get addresses. Oh, I probably know why. He only opened up a certain number of ports on. I think he only opened a few ports on the HTTP server. But you can try to reboot again and see if it works. I'll show you how to reboot. If you click up to the top where it says player, click there, and there is a reset. The second box that looks like the pause button, if you click on that, one of the pull downs will be reset. That'll reboot. Oh. Just to see if it comes back with an IP address. Yes. Yeah, you have to do things. If you did get an IP address, we'll see if we get one if we reboot. I don't know how many ports he opened, but I have a feeling what happened is he was supposed to open about 30 ports, but I think other people have maybe claimed the IP addresses. As far as how many simultaneous? How many phones? I've run it with as many as I run it in the classroom where everybody was on one, and we had 60 on it at one time. You know, how much, it's all sorts of just right. Very low. Okay, what I'd like you to do, if you would care to, just follow the instructions down from this point. To create an extension, I'll kind of walk you through it. If you click on the little link over here on the right side that says switch, it's going to present you with a username and a password. So the username is always maint, M-A-I-N-T, and the password is the usual toughest password in the world, password. Password, all lowercase. The registration screen, you do not have to register it. In fact, there's a little link later on if you want to follow through the instructions. You could kind of eliminate this completely. It says it right here. Okay. Now, this screen is really cool. This was to answer your question a little bit. As you start adding users and they start using it, this screen will actually tell you how much of your server is being used. Oh, yeah, it actually will keep you pretty much alive. So again, this is a virtual machine, so I'm not actually running a lot of resources.
So you can't overfit it.
You probably could.
I mean, but you could mistakenly.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Oh yeah, you could do. I mean, you could do anything.
Right.
But yeah. Okay. I'm going to just real quick show you how to get to the extensions. I'm going to let you read on your own. You come over here to PBX and PBX settings. Click on extensions. I know if I'm going too fast, I'll slow it down a bit. Any luck on an IP address back there? Okay. I have a feeling it may not, maybe move up front to one of the other machines. Maybe it might be machine dependent. It isn't working? Oh, I'm sorry. They were supposed to have enough for the phones and everything else. So to create an extension, if you kind of pay attention up here, I can show you through it. Click Submit. Now we're ready to start entering the extension information. Now, a lot of this stuff is completely unnecessary for your first extension. Some of it you can use and some of it you can't. But I've got it set up in pretty good. So, the user extension, that is a way of identifying the extension. You can identify it by a name or a number. This is just your identification for Asterisk, so that you can say, okay, I want to modify Bill's extension. I want to modify extension 400. It's not the actual extension number. It's internal management. So let's say, for example, I want to say Bill's office. That's not an extension, but it's a way of identifying. The display name is the name that will appear on the phone when you dial somebody's number. That's the number that they're going to see. You won't see that on your phone. You'll see that on their phone. And by the way, I love this feature. If you hover over any of the underscored, it actually gives you a pretty good little help. Like, for example, the SID number alias is used for internal calls if different from the extension number. So, for example, if you're dialing from somebody internally and you don't want to show the extension, you want to show an alternate extension, you can do that. Oh, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I apologize. The extension number does have to be put there. That was my mistake. Sorry, but easy to correct. So put in the extension number. By the way, the numbers can be 2 digits, 3 digits, 4 digits, 5 digits, 6 digits. However many digits you want in your extension number. So they won't be able to get. They can do, yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. For those of you that didn't get an IP address, Rick reminded me, if you want to get an internal IP address, we can switch off of bridged mode, which means we're getting an IP from the school. We can do it internally, and you'll just get its own IP. So if you go back to, and I'm just going to flip back here for just a second. If you go back to your player, if you click on player, removable devices? Okay. See where I'm at so far? Player, removable devices, network adapter, and then settings. If you change it from bridged to host only, and then reset your virtual machine, you will get an IP, 192.168.1.something. Okay. I'll walk you through that to kind of help you. If you want to start building your extensions, go for it. Okay. Oh. To get your mouse back, Control Alt. Control Alt will give you your mouse back. Player. And we go to host only. reset, and then you'll get it done. Good. So go ahead, and if you do this, you should be able to set up some extensions. Now, you can call an extension, once you set up your extensions, if you wanted to, I don't know what kind of time, because we're about 12 minutes left, but if you want to, you can set up a soft phone. But what I'd like to do is, while you're kind of doing that, I'm going to set up an extension, and I'm going to tie the extensions onto the hard phones to demonstrate kind of how you set those up. And I have instructions. I have written instructions for every one of the phones we use. So I'm going to go ahead and set up an extension very quickly, a couple of extensions. So we'll do Bill. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about that. You have to set up a secret password. I recommend using your extension number because enable voice. You remember it, yeah. Oh, here's a feature I love. I actually do this as an advanced lab. How many of you have ever messed around with IVR? Basically, if somebody calls your extension number at your office, it will forward it onto your cell phones or wherever you want it to go. That's IVR. So you can set up 3 IVRs. 0 is defined to go to the operator by default, but you can change that. But you can put any telephone number there.
To forward this call to another phone.
To forward, if you wanted to forward a call after so many rings, and here you can specify use when I'm unavailable or when I'm busy. So instead of going directly to your voicemail. But you can actually put voicemail in here. So what I would do is, okay, go to 0 or go to 1 or then go to 2. So it'll just pop all the way down. That's a fairly advanced feature. So once you have entered in the minimum information, you submit. Now this is the one thing where you have to be a little careful of. When you're finished setting up all your extensions, you have to submit your changes to the database. So that's where the Apply Configuration Changes button is. But I can create the extensions first, then commit them all at once. So I've created one extension. I'm going to create another extension now, 301, Bob, secret 301, enable the voicemail 301, submit. And I'm going to do one more. Yeah. Oh, no. It's the secret. SIP is, for all intents and purposes, SIP is voice version of email. Right. It's the same thing. It's the password so that if they're not related to each other, they just have to put them there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the secret is the password. That when you associate a physical phone or to an extension.
I thought that was the password for the DTMF.
No. No. DTMF.
I was trying to figure out why that would need that.
No.
Okay.
No, it's just that when you do your phone association.
Right. Okay.
And then finally, now that I've got the 3 extensions, I'm going to apply them. And then pop in and continue with the configuring. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and program. I'm going to try to see if I can get these 3 phones programmed. Now the cool thing about this is these are all, you can do it from the keypad, which is a pain in the ass. But better to do it from the web browser. So every phone has their own unique way of finding out what its IP address is. But there's usually some kind of a menu. So if on this one I press the menu button, I come down here to settings, basic, advanced. The password on Polycom is always 456 unless you change it. And we come over to administrative settings, network configuration, administrative settings.
So it's very intuitive.
Yes. Fortunately, I am not. Status network. Believe it or not, I hate Polycom. They're cheap phones, they're great phones, they work well. Their menu leaves a lot to be desired. So it will come up with an IP address. This happens to be on 192. So I'll type in that address in another window. So if I go to 10.164.17.192, Polycom is the username, password is 456. The instructions for setting up the Polycom are on the...
Did you use passwords or all the passwords same thing on Instagram?
What I did is, the password is... What is the password? I think it's Grandstream. I have to look it up again. I think it's Grandstream with a capital G. Or... Look at it real fast. Sure.
If two people use the same extension, will that cancel it out? If we filled it in and then if the save changes went back to a blank, we're just testing that there.
Oh, no. It went back to what? The extension's still there. Look over. Oh, no, it didn't show up.
Yeah, it didn't show up, but we did it the same way.
Oh, go back to the top.
Yeah, once you click the user extension,
Display name. Okay, that's your problem. No. Thanks. Yeah, they should be okay. So say submit. Go back up to the top. And now you hit apply. So now you can set up the phone. Let's see if I can do this in a couple of minutes. It's very simple. You just you go to the General tab. You can set up any of these things. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. The SMTP server if you want time. The major thing you need is on the SIP tab. You need to set two things. One, you need to set the IP address of your call manager, obviously, and you have to set up the extension that the phone takes. SIP is what you set up for the server over here where it says servers. That's the address of your server. So I'm just going to type it in right now. And that's 10.164.17.219. Then you have to scroll down a little bit, and I'm just following my instructions. Hit it, submit. It'll reset the phone.
You haven't set the extension yet.
No, you set the server address first, then I'm going to come over here to the line and I'll set the extension. This is a 2-line phone, and these are both 4-line phones. So I can actually have 4 separate extensions, or 2 extensions. And it should be rebooting. Okay, maybe it did it. Doesn't usually happen that fast. So now I can set the identification. So for the display name, leave it blank. The address, again, the extension number for the phone, and this is going to be 300. The user ID is the same extension number, and the password is the same extension. Whatever you set for your password, if you used a different password, you would put that in. Now, look, that's really all you need. If you put on a label, that label will appear on the phone. That's the name that will appear. Remember, the display name is what somebody else will see. The label is what will be on your phone.
So would you put the display name up there?
You could, because this is what will appear on your phone, and when the display name is what everybody else will see.
But didn't you set that before on the Xbox?
Yes. Let me go back here again.
So you set it there. Do you need to set it on the phone as
Yes,
well?
because that's the caller ID number, and the other number is specific to that phone itself. One identifies the phone that you're on, and the other is the number that's being pushed out to anybody else. Does that make sense?
It's just that you've got the display name here.
Yeah.
And the option to put the display name when you're configuring the phone.
Okay, when you put the display name on the phone, that is the number that will appear on this phone. When you call, oh no. The label. Remember, I made the mistake that the label was the actual extension of the phone. Because if I create a new extension.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the user extension is the actual extension of the phone, and the display name is what the caller ID is being sent.
Yes. Then go back to the phone.
Here's the phone.
So up at the top, the display name there.
Oh! I got to look at that again. I'm going to see which one it is. I see what you're talking about. I said leave it blank. I got to check this. This phone's a little bit weird. Let's just put it this way. Let's see which one comes up.
Yep.
Submit. And that should reset that phone. And I hope it does. Yep. It says just Bill. So the label is what it is.
The label is from Trixbox.
Right. No, the label is from the phone. Remember that where it said label over?
You put Bill's phone.
But I put that, well, let me see. I had two things I put on the line. Bill's phone was the display name.
Yes.
Bill was the label.
So right. So Bill's phone is what somebody else will see.
Maybe. We'll have to see how it works. I think I know what it is. Yes, you're exactly right. The display name is what somebody else will see if you're not using Asterisk. Asterisk will do this for you. In other words, you could use this phone with a third party, with another system that may not have the caller ID being sent through the call manager.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's why I knew there was a reason why I was leaving it blank.
Because Asterisk was taking.
Because Asterisk was going to do it for us. Okay. Ah.
So
Now,
you do another phone?
Yeah, I'm going to do one other phone real quick just because I know I only have a second left. Just to show you I can make a phone call. So if I hit the dial button, it's trying to ring the line. It's trying to ring me, which of course is not something you want.
So you have to set up the other phones.
Yeah, before you really do a call. So let me set up the other phone. Let me do one of the...
Well, more importantly,
I'm in Goldstein, but it says that it doesn't make any sense as far as the settings.
Oh, well, let me give you the instruction sheet. Grand stream, right? It's 1, 2, 3. Okay. Oh, on this one, it's the password was admin. Okay.
Must be the other two. They all let me go on search. I'm just dying back in.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and real quick show you. Let's see if I can set up. I know our time is almost gone. I know you want to go to the. We have another one that starts in 10 minutes. Okay.
So you're sure you can do with this equipment.
Yeah.
Do you have everything, in terms of setting all this stuff up? Because this is like a little bit for one piece here. Have you got a course?
Yes.
And we can walk us through if you got curriculum or material for teaching?
Yes, exactly.
So we can get all that from you as a part of the your grant, Ann? Is that part of it?
It is and it isn't. This one has not been. This one hasn't been fully vetted out for Ann to be posted yet. I'm in the process of that right now.
Okay, so you. Okay.
But I do have the course ready if you want it. I'll be happy to. If anybody is interested, I'll be happy to send you the labs I've done and the information. I just got to get. There's the other labs like for the CME and the Linksys. This one, they're not mine, so we have to just make sure they're usable. But I think they are. This is the book I'm using. It's not it was hard to find a textbook for this class. This is not a true text, it's more of a reference book. But it's really good detail. I've made up my own PowerPoints on it. I've got tests I've written. All of this stuff I am happy to share. But what was really cool about this class, again, you can bring in a VoIP program either as a separate course or as a part of a larger network course. And it's a good general introductory class. The book name is, I'll pass it out, it's VoIP and Unified Communications, Wiley by William Flanagan. And it's a pretty cheap book.
We can ask you for all this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I wish I had another hour and a half, but it was a shame because I brought all the equipment up to play with, and time just seems to fly by.